Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the Crochet Circle podcast. It's called The Secret's Out, and I will explain in the Designs in Progress segment what that is all about. I can finally tell you all what it is that I've been ferreting away at behind the scenes. I hope you're all well. It's the 31st, it's Halloween today when I'm recording. I should have recorded on Sunday, but I don't know what I was doing. I just didn't fancy recording, and I would much rather record when I feel kind of upbeat and ready for it, and that wasn't Sunday. So I'm recording today, Halloween, and the podcast will go out on Friday, which is the 3rd of November, and it's just gone properly chilly here in Cheshire. Yesterday morning we had our first actual frost on the ground, and I was out here in my office yesterday and I was frozen all day long. It's not too bad today, but yesterday I couldn't put enough clothes on to keep warm. It was ridiculous. So I'm quite chuffed that it wasn't as frosty overnight, and actually it's a bit warmer here, because if I try to put the heater on, you then can't hear me. So I have to freeze for my art. I have to freeze so that you can hear my dulcet tones in the podcast. So yeah, I might pop in and out and make lots of brews during the recording of this one. My name is Faye, and I bring this podcast to you on a monthly basis, and it's the first Friday of every month. All of the show notes are very comprehensive. They go up onto Podbean, and that's www.thecrochetcircle.podbean.com. I'm also quite lively on Instagram at times. Sometimes it takes a dip, same with Ravelry. Instagram, it is crochet_circle_podcast, and Ravelry, just search in the groups for the Crochet Circle podcast group and you will find us. Lots of lovely people, lots of lovely interaction, and well worth hunting us down. You'll see some really regular faces in there, and just, yeah, very nice group of people. So that's where you can find me. I'm also knitithookit on Instagram for my company, my crafting company, and I have just started up a new Instagram for my design side of things, because I didn't quite feel like I could keep on putting my designs up on knitithookit because it's quite a different beast. So if you fancy following me for the designs, it's faydhdesigns, so faydhdesigns on Instagram. And if you fancy looking at what I design on Ravelry, then go to Dashper-Hughes designs. All of the links are in the show notes, and they're at the front and back of the podcast on YouTube as well. So if you want to follow me, all of the links are there for you. Right, shall we crack on and see what we've got for you today? I'm going to kick off again with quick news beats, where I just try and do a quick rundown of bits and pieces that have been going on and things that you might be interested in. And I'm going to start with hashtag Friday is Dye Day. Last Friday was the 27th of October, and a few of us had a go at dyeing our own yarns. I've pulled together a blog post on this, so if it's something that you're interested in, then I would say please go and have a look at that blog post. It takes you through using professional dyes, which are also known as acid dyes, doing natural dyeing, and also trying icing colorants, which I was really impressed with. So they're the three main ways of dyeing yarn and fabrics as well. And of course I can't hope to tell you everything that you need to know, but what I hope the blog post does is gives you a bit of a pointer and allows you to then look at what method might be interesting to you and give it a try. I was really impressed actually with the icing colorant dyes. They're more intense than standard food dyes, and they seem to be very colour fast and really easy to mix up and get different types of colours with. So also worth taking a look on Instagram at hashtag Friday is Dye Day to see what other people were creating. I was over at my friend Beck's house. She's got Black Horse Yarns. She got her son to do some icing colorant dyeing on a skein of chunky yarn, and he did really bright primary colours, and then we set it, and she's already knitted him up a hat, and it looks absolutely fantastic. And he was over the moon that he was able to very quickly dye something up and then have it as a hat out the other side. It just looks great. So If you're curious about dyeing, then I would say give it a go. It is great fun, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time to do the process. So I'll pop some photos up on the show notes of the things that I've done, but I did all sorts on that day. So I managed to dye another skein of Skinny Merino, and it was meant to be like a kind of dark blue colour, and what I dyed it with was logwood, so it's a natural dye, and actually it was the second dye bath. It had already been used once back in 2011, so I didn't know quite what was going to happen with this, and what I've got is gorgeous shades of grey going through to charcoal, going through to a much more silvery colour, and that is going to be paired up with the two skeins that I dyed with the silver birch bark, and they are, the three of them together, going to become a shawl by Sarah Hazel. I think it's called the Purbeck shawl. I've already bought it and had it sat there, but it needs 3 skeins of 4-ply, and whilst I've got lots and lots of yarn, what I didn't have were 3 skeins I would purposefully want to put together for this shawl, and now I do. So that was with logwood, and that was natural dyeing. The other natural dyeing that I did was I tried some turmeric root. And if you're watching, you might see I've been handling this, and my hands look a little jaundice. It's not, it's just that the turmeric is continuing to come off onto my hands, so I need to be careful with that one. But it is turmeric coloured, it's very vibrant, and it smells quite a lot. I quite like it because I love spices, and I dyed that one specifically because I also knew that I wanted to do a purple in an icing colourant one, so I was using the Wilton's violet colour, and the two together are just a gorgeous match, and I wanted to do that because I had a future project in mind to do a Fair Isle knitted cowl with them, and I think that kind of dulled out purple with the vibrancy of the turmeric coloured yarn will just be beautiful. And again, all of these will be photographed and popped up into the show notes. So if you're listening and you want to see what I've been dyeing up, then head there and you'll be able to see what's been going on. So what my plan is to keep on doing #Friday is Dye Day on the last Friday of every month. Yeah, so it would be Friday's Dye Day, and then the next Friday it would be the podcast. And what I'm trying to do is build up my own appreciation of hand-dyed yarn. So one Friday of the month it might be that I am dyeing stuff and taking photos and showing you that process, and I would love you to get involved as well. And then the next it might be that I am making something with the yarns that I've dyed and showing you what it is that I'm making, or it might be that I've gone to my stash and I'm showing you some of my favourite hand dyers and what it is that they've dyed, and then what I'm going to do with that skein. So it's all about the appreciation of hand dyeing, but it might not necessarily be stuff that I've hand dyed myself. So yeah, get involved. Any Friday, Friday is Dye Day. Send photos in on Instagram and use the hashtag. Let's see what you've got. So that was Friday is Dye Day. Second quick news beat is the keen-eyed amongst you might have seen that I've added some more moderators to Ravelry. These are people that were already very active in the group, and I just wanted to formalise that structure a little bit more. So Tamara and Helen were already moderators in the group, and that got set up when we started the back to school sweater cal, and then I've added in Lisa, Anna and Jo. So they are now all moderators in the group as well. And that, it doesn't mean anything because they're already, well, not it doesn't mean anything. They're already doing wonderful things and getting in there and welcoming people into the group and keeping the chat going. But it's just a way of recognising them for that and like saying thank you, it's much appreciated. Here it is in a more formal capacity. And they're brilliant at it. They're really good, really friendly ladies. And I guarantee you that if you put something on the Ravelry group, one of those 5 people will be one of the first to dip in and say, oh, that's lovely, I love that, welcome to the group. They're just fantastic. So we have 5 moderators, which is great. Next quick news beat. Back in, I think it might have been April or May, I mentioned the fact that I wanted to do a global hookup. And I'm mentioning it now because one of the segments I want to cover off today is about setting up a crafting group, which is something people have expressed an interest in. And I know that lots of people won't have access to a crafting group and don't necessarily want to set them up themselves. And so I had talked about having a global hookup whereby online we meet up together and we have a specific night for, let's say, an hour and a half where we have a kind of online crafting session. So I haven't mentioned it for ages, and I thought, well, I'd better tell you that I have still been working on this behind the scenes, but it just hasn't been a priority for me. But what I've done is now set a date in stone. So it will be Saturday the 25th of November, probably somewhere about 7-8 o'clock. I'll define that because I need to check what happened with the clocks turning back at the weekend here in the UK. And it's trying to find a time that would work for the most amount of people globally, and looking at where the listenership is and the YouTube people are. It is about 50% of you are from the US. So it's trying to make sure that the people that are most likely to join in actually are on a sensible timeline. So US and UK predominantly, and within that kind of Canada as well, and Europe. So trying to find times that would work for a global gathering. So more to follow on that. I'll pop it all onto Ravelry. Keep an eye out on Ravelry for that. But the idea is that the one on the 25th of November is just a quick starter one, just to see if it works, see what needs to be ironed out. So I'm not going to be going all out with publicity, because I would rather do that when I know that it will work and it does what people expect and want it to do, hopefully. So keep an eye on Rav, and there will be more details on the global hookup ready for the 25th of November. Very exciting, really looking forward to that, because I think it will be a great way of having more communication with people and a bit more crossover with what we're all doing. Boshing through this. Cals for 2018. I have opened up a thread on Ravelry for you to tell me, if you want to, like, you don't have to, but if you want to, what crochet alongs would you like me to run with the podcast in 2018? I've had a few ideas which I've already added to the thread, but I'd really love to hear what it is that you would like to do. We have a Christmas Eve crochet along, which will start, as I said, on Christmas Eve. You can do it in 1 minute past midnight on Christmas Eve. If you want, if you're that way inclined. I think I did that last year from Germany when I was on holiday. And that will be a 100 gram one, and I'll be doing that in conjunction with Charlie from Love Charlie podcast, and that will go on until the 31st of January. But I don't have any other crochet alongs in the diary thereafter, and I would much rather deliver what you want me to deliver. So get into that thread and let me know what it is that you would like as a crochet along, and then I will filter through it all, bring it all into kind of some semblance of what it might look like, and I'm probably looking for another 3 crochet alongs on the back of the Christmas Eve cast on one, possibly 4. So yeah, let me know what you would like, what your ideas are, and we will I'll sort it out and make it happen. So moving on to Old Dog New Tricks. One of the things I have been working on is how I can kind of win at yarn chicken. When you know you're coming to the end of your ball of yarn, I always think it's better to finish that ball of yarn at the end of a row or a round, more so a row because it's more important than it is to have a changeover in the middle of your work, in the middle of a round. It looks neater. I always think when you sew in ends, you can kind of see where that end was. If you're really good at split splicing, then you can hide it that way, but it does depend on what yarn you're using. Not everything split splices. And so it might be that you are starting a new row, or you're coming to the very end of a project and you don't know if you've got enough yarn left. So what I've done is a little bit of investigating on how you can use a quick technique for working out if you've got enough yarn. Now you can do it from weighing, and weighing the previous row and weighing the next row. but if you don't have scales with you, how else are you going to do it? And so what I've done is I worked up 3 different samples in 3 different weights. So a 4-ply, a double knitting DK, and a chunky weight yarn. So the 4-ply was 400 meters per 100 grams, the DK was 200 meters per 100 grams, and the chunky was 100 meters per 100 grams. So really standard weights that I used. And for the 4-ply, I used a 3mm hook, because that's what I figured most people use for shawls if they're dealing with a 4-ply. For the DK, I used a 4mm, and for the chunky, I used a 6mm. And I did a few introductory rows just to settle my tension down, and then I did 3 rows of double crochet, single crochet US, 3 rows of half treble, half double US, and 3 rows of treble double US. And I did that across the 3 weights of yarn. And what that allowed me to then do was unravel the 3 rows of treble, having put a marker at the end of it and the beginning of it, and then measure how many times it would have gone across the length of my project. So let me find a clear or clearish way of trying to put this across. So you're about to start a new row and you don't know if you've got enough yarn left. And what you need to do is understand which stitch it is that you're using. And this methodology I've only done it across 3 stitches. And of course, if you're doing something that's lacy, then it won't work because we have no way of dictating how much it's going to use, or certainly not using this methodology. But if you have your row in front of you, then you know what the length of that row is. And if you are doing a row of double crochets, then you will need 9 times the length of that row to complete a row. So you need 9 times the length will give you a double crochet in every single stitch in that row. If it's a half treble, then you will need 12 times the length of your row to be able to complete an entire row of half treble. If it's a treble, then you need 14 times the length of your row to be able to complete that row with a treble in every single stitch. I tested it out again today and it works. The 14 for a treble, 12 for a half treble and 9 for a double gives you a little bit of leeway as well. But of course, because I've tested that across the different weights and therefore the different hook size, and I tried all 3 stitches for all 3 weights and hook sizes, I'm fairly sure that this works. And because I did it on 3 rows and then took the average of the 3 rows, I think we've probably got something that's fairly accurate. So give it a go. Next time you're working on a project, then what I would say is before you start the next row, if you're doing double crochets, then work out what 9 lengths of that row looks like, put a pin in it, and then do your work. And I would pretty much guarantee you that by the time that you're coming to the end of that row, you will be pretty spot on with coming towards that marker in that yarn for having used that amount of yarn in each row. So if you're not sure whether you're going to have enough to finish off a project and you might need to buy more yarn, or you might need to rethink your design a little, then that might be quite a nice way of working out what you can do next and whether you'll run out. Hopefully I've explained that well enough. It's quite a difficult concept to get across, but in general, a row of trebles, you'll need 14 times the length of the row to finish it off. A row of half trebles will need 12 times the length of the row, and doubles you'll need 9 times the length of the row. Length, width, whichever way you want to take it. But really helpful if you think you're going to have to play yarn chicken. Was that as clear as mud? It probably was. Apologies. I've recorded this 3 times now because I can't think of a better way of trying to get the information across. So hopefully you understood what I meant. So let's move on to finished objects. I am wearing one of them. It is my Sicily jumper which is a free of charge pattern. It's by Marie Wallen for Rowan, and I was doing this as part of my hashtag back to school sweater cal, which Helen and Tamara were running, still running, and I am so pleased with this. This is my best fitting jumper for sure. I'm just going to step down and model it because I'm really pleased with it. It's nicely fitted. It's got decreases coming into the waistline and increases coming back up for the bust. You can make it more bat-wingy if you want. One of the areas where I often struggle with garments is it can just be a little bit too close underneath the underarms, and I overheat and then become a hot sweaty mess. So I like the fact that this is a bit more bat-wingy and it's not going to be up in my armpits. That's quite nice. It's got quite a high neck to it, and the sleeves are doubled up, which I really love, because what that does is gives me the option of leaving them fully down, which then gives me a lovely long sleeve that comes kind of part way down my palm, or I can roll it up and have the sleeves up and out my way. It's really warm because I've done it in a Shillister luxury blend, which has got cashmere and all sorts in it, in a 4-ply. Although the pattern calls for a 4-ply cotton, I didn't fancy the cotton, so I moved to the Shillister instead, and I really love it. Like I say, it's my best fitting jumper to date, and it's it's Hawthorne berry coloured, so it feels quite Christmassy. Not that I'm a Christmassy person, but it feels quite festive. I was singing Christmas tunes this morning. I blame my friend Jenny, Little Miss Christmas. That's her very bad influence. So yeah, I'm really chuffed with it. If anybody else was thinking about doing a Sicily jumper, I still need to put my notes up onto Ravelry, but it was really quick to do. And what I've done, because the one in the model was a bit loose, I don't think it was as flattering as it could have been, and so I have actually done the small size. I'm a size 14 to 16, and the small size is a really nice fit. Had I done a larger size, I just think it would have drowned me out. It just wouldn't have looked good at all. But I love this. I'm going to get quite a lot of wear out of this. I think that quite often what happens is you make a garment and you think it's going to be amazing, and you try it on and you go, oh, not just quite what I was looking for. I don't feel that way about this one at all. I love it. I'm going to wear it all the time. You know, it's very open lace work, and although I'm a little bit chilly, I've just got a little spaghetti strap top on underneath it, and I'm actually okay out in the office in this, and it's nearly November. So yay for finished objects, and yay for back to school sweater cal. I've started another one as well. Not another Sicily, but another jumper, because I've taken so much heart from having a garment that fits really nicely and is in colours that I love, and yeah, so I'm on it. That's it. I am a garment crocheter now. That's it. So that's finished object number 1. Finished object number 2 is a shawl that I was doing as part of the Fibre Friends Northbound Knitting knit along. Hello ladies, I'm waving. They're lovely, they're great fun, I love their podcast. It's Caroline, Adrian and Louise, and they're great fun. They make me laugh all the time. And they were doing a knit along with Lisa Much's patterns. Lisa Much is also the yarn dyer behind Northbound Knitting. If you haven't checked out her stuff, have a look. Her stuff is incredible. It's really tonal. She deals with very darkened colours, a lot of greys, a lot of blacks. She doesn't do big bold primary colours, and it's really subtle and beautiful. And the same with her patterns. She sticks to quite a restricted colour palette, and she doesn't do over the top patterns. Are very simple, very elegant, really nice. And the one that I've done is called Auspice, and it only takes 100 grams of a 4-ply yarn, so it's perfect. And I had dyed up 100 grams of skinny merino with blackberries and got really quite a nice silvery purple colour. What's interesting, I said in the podcast last time that dyeing with blackberries can be fugitive, which means that the colour will fade, which I knew, and there is a little bit of a difference. The shawl is certainly more grey, I guess because it's been out more, whereas the little nugget that I've got left has been in a project bag. But I love working with this. If you've never worked with the skinny merino before, when you first handle it, it feels a little bit odd and you think, oh, I did. I thought, I don't really like you. And then as it knits up, in particular in garter squish, in garter stitch, it's really squishy and lovely. And I think this in a double crochet as well would just be gorgeous. So that's my next thing. I'd really like to play with some crocheted skinny merino, which I will be because of the Sarah Hazel shawl that I'll be working on, but that's probably going to be the beginning of next year before I get there. But the thing about a skinny merino is it is just 1 ply, so it's got quite a different twist on it, and it's quite an irregular twist, and it just makes for a really interesting crafting. Very, very squishy. I love the blackberry tones that are in there. They're very subtle. So that's my other finished object. Really nicely written pattern, very simple. And I would encourage you, if you're also a knitter, go and have a look at Lisa Much's patterns. She's got quite a few on Ravelry, and she's very well respected and very well thought of. And check out her yarn. It's on my I wish list would be to have some Northbound Knitting Lisa Much yarn. I don't have any, and that's definitely on my I would love to own some of that. So that was finished object number 2. Finished object number 3 kind of takes me into acquisitions as well, but I went to that there fancy London town, and I met up with my friends Helen, Flick, Crean and Charlie came as well, and we went to I Knit London and we went to Loop. And when I was in Loop, I came across a new book which is called Making Winter, and it's by Emma Mitchell. Some of you are probably well aware of Emma. She's got the most beautiful Instagram account, really gorgeous. And one of the patterns that she had in this book were called the Hawthorne wrist warmers. Very simple wrist warmers that have got a branch and hawthorn berry design on them. But the way that Emma has designed it, it's all in one colour. And me being me, I have to fidget. I can't just take a pattern at face value and say that's what I'll do. It's very rare for that to happen with me. I always think I can do something else and add a little something. And I've got some spare hawthorn coloured yarn left over from doing my Sicily top. And I thought, well, I'm sure I could make mittens that have got hawthorn berries on them. And I'm sure I could dye up a little nugget of yarn that would be brown that would give me some hawthorn branches. And so I did. So I played about with the pattern, really quick to make up, and I have made myself some mittens that have got hawthorn berries and hawthorn branches on them. And they're very warm and lovely. So they're on an undyed, the bulk of it, the main colour, is an undyed yarn that my mum found me in a charity shop. It's from Woolly Knits, and it's an odd structure. It almost had a chain to it, and it's undyed Blueface Leicester, but it's not as soft as you would normally expect Blueface Leicester to be. I think maybe just because of the chaining construction. And then I had some skinny merino that I had dyed up using Wilton icing colourants. That was what I did with that. I was aiming for a very different colour. I was actually aiming for a greeny colour, which I have since dyed, but what I got was a really dark brown, so I used it in these mittens instead. And then the same Shillistare hawthorn coloured on my little berries. Really like them. Very rustic looking and feeling mitten, and I like that. Quite often I err towards the more, that's going to sound harsh, I don't mean it that way, but like the more elegant, refined patterns, and every now and then it's just good to go rustic. And yeah, really like them, and they were keeping my hands very warm yesterday when I was out in the office. So if anybody else is interested in working out how I did the hawthorn berries and the branches, ping me a message and I'll tell you what I did. It was quite simple to do once I'd worked out where the best point was to do the yarn changes. So yeah, ping me a message and I'll tell you how I managed it. If not, make your life simpler and just do it all in one colour. Don't fidget like I have to fidget. So that was finished object number 3. And then, because I've been on a little dyeing kick, one of the things that I had dyed up was a sock blank. And you may not all be aware of what a sock blank is, but it's like if you imagine a length of knitted fabric, and the way that this one works is that it's actually made up of 2 strands of 4-ply yarn together, knitted together. And then what I did was dyed that sock blank in quite crazy fashion. I was just spilling dye here, there and everywhere just to see what happened, and putting sprinkles on it and just having fun. And what that means is when you unravel the sock blank, you should have pretty much 2 identical socks as you knit or crochet them up. And so I've knitted with mine because that was the effect that I wanted. And I will pop a photo up, but you can see that they go from a pink colour through into more bluey base, and they are pretty much identical as they go through the colours because it was from a sock blank. It was great fun to do. Total pain in the backside to undo the 2 strands, and it meant that I had to knit them concurrently, which meant that I didn't ever feel like I was going to finish the end of the project. But what I did do was tried a new heel technique and tried an afterthought heel. And I have a question. I can see an afterthought heel working possibly rather well in a crocheted sock as well. So does anybody know of a sock pattern, a crocheted sock pattern that uses that technique, or has anybody used that technique in a crochet sock? Because I would love to know whether it works or not. Because all you do is you knit a tube, so I would do the same when I would crochet a tube. There's a piece of waste yarn that has been knitted in, and then all I would do is pick up a round, take that waste yarn out, and put the heel in, put an afterthought heel in. But I've not seen that for crochet, so let me know if anyone's had a go at it. And yeah, I can, now that I've showed you, I can put my final afterthought heel in and get these on my feet because they're going to be really, really warm. These are Blueface Leicester as well with 25% nylon. So really nice and warm. I'm on a bit of a Blueface Leicester kick at the moment because it's a lovely wool. It's one of our British breeds as well, so it's quite easy for me to get hold of. And it has like a luster on it that you don't tend to get with merino. And it's almost got a silky quality to it. It's really beautiful to work with, and yeah, it's a very hard wearing one for socks as well. So if you don't want merino nylon, you could look to just having a Blueface Leicester sock without any nylon in it, if that's your preference. But that's my last finished object for this month. No, it's not. That's a lie. It's a total lie. I have also been working on some garlands. I've got some in the background behind me, and I've been working on little sycamore leaves, and I've been doing some stuff with acorn leaves and little acorns, and all of this has been pulled together for me to put onto my stand. I'm vending at the Nottingham Yarn Expo on the 11th and 12th of November, so if you're hearing this and you're in the area, please come and say hello. I'm on stand 107 at the Nottingham Yarn Expo, and I'm hoping to have lots of little crocheted kind of autumnal bits and pieces all over my stand to make it feel like the outside has come inside. So I've been working on them as well, and just, yeah, nice little bits and pieces that show that I'm a crafter to people that come onto my stand. I think that's quite important. So that's finished objects done. Let's move on to works in progress. Last time round I said one of my future whips was going to be another version of the crisscross shawl using Green Elephant's Gym Nut yarn, and I have started that. I haven't got very far into it because I'm doing a video tutorial for this at the same time, but I have made a start. I'm on row 22 I think, so I'm getting there, and I love how this is working up. I love the luminous bits, I love the bright little pops of teal. It's like, it's a crazy yarn for me to be working with, but I really like it. And I've just put the first lattice row in, and I'm working up now on the increases. So I haven't got very far, but I will do. I'll be doing this tutorial tomorrow as well. So I would imagine by the time you see me next time, I'll have this finished as an FO. But we've moved the date. So originally we were going for a November crochet along, and the next All and is coming out in December, and so what we've decided to do is run the crochet along in January, which means that if anybody was going to buy a nice special skein or two and wanted to use it for a version of crisscross, then they could have that as a Christmas present and then join in the new year with this crochet along. The pattern will be free of charge, available for you off All and Anne's website. And like I say, I'm recording the tutorial now, so there will be a YouTube tutorial for any little bits and pieces that might flummox you. But it is a very easy crochet project. It just looks more intricate than it is. But I've deliberately tried to write it in such a way that it should be very sensible. So that's my first work in progress. And my second one, I don't have many because I've had some quite large finished objects that I've been working on. My second one is the second garment that I was telling you about. So again, because, you know, I've been dyeing yarn, when I was at Yarndale, I had bought some Blueface Leicester and Massam blend yarn. I think it's 80% Blueface Leicester, 20% Massam. And it smells very sheepy. And what that means is it's got a very light grey browny tone to it as an undyed yarn. And on Friday, for #FridayIsDye-Day, I dyed up 5 skeins of it to be able to start a jumper with. And what I was specifically looking for was to get a very light soft blue that would come across like a stone washed denim colour. So I didn't want a solid colour across all of the skeins. I didn't even really want a semi-solid. I wanted a very subtle variation of the shades coming through, and that's exactly what I've got. And it's just this yarn is so beautiful to work with. It's very light and airy, so instead of using even a 3mm hook, I'm actually using a 4mm hook on it, even though it's a 4-ply yarn. But it's just so like poofy. It's lovely, and it's just got so much air in it. It really suits that slightly more open structure of the 4-ply yarn. So let's show you, and again there will be photos in the show notes, but hopefully what you'll be able to see is how different it is in tone from one part of the row to the next. And that's exactly what I was after. So this is called the Home Body Sweater, and it's meant to be like a lovely slouchy jumper for bobbing about the house in. And so I thought the stone washed look would be absolutely perfect for that, because it will just go with everything. So I haven't got too far in. I'm probably on, I've done the ribbing at the bottom of the first panel, and maybe about 15 rows. It's just half treble crochet, half double US terminology, and I'm using a 4mm hook and a 4-ply yarn, and I'm really chuffed. This is a free of charge pattern as well. It's on Ravelry, it's called the Homebody, but I've already put links to it in the show notes. So if you're interested in looking at what the final object is likely going to look like, then go ahead and have a little look there. But yeah, I'm impressed that I've managed to dye that to pretty much what it was that I was looking for. Yeah, it's good. And I've just checked, I said 4mm hook, it's not, it's a 4.5mm that I'm using, which is a US 7. Yeah. Loving hand dyed at the moment. I have no interest in becoming a yarn dyer. People that out there that do it, like Becky from River Yarns, they are incredible at it, and I will leave it with them. But every now and then, it's good to dabble, good to have fun with it, and good to appreciate how good other people are. Like, mine's okay, but these people that do it for a living are incredible, and I'm by no means trying to replicate what they do, but it's fun to have a project in your mind and think, well, that's what I'm going to dye this up for. So that's what I've been doing. I think that's it on the whips. Yeah, I don't have anything else. They're it. Yeah, that's it. That was a quick one. So I have refueled. I have hot coffee. It's getting a bit chilly out there now. It's about 3:10, so I probably need to hurry up because otherwise the daylight's going to get going. And I think as I come into the winter months, I'm going to have to get better at podcasting earlier on in the day because the office will be warmer and I'll have better natural daylight to play with rather than depending on quite a lot of studio lights and stuff. But coffee is good. So I'm going to move on to designs in progress. Just finished off before I started recording. I finished off the barley cowl. Really enjoyed working on this. Good fun moving around the little different bits of colour. I haven't even woven in the end yet. But it's one of those cowls I love a cowl because I think sometimes they're much easier to wear than shawls, because when you put them on, they don't go anywhere, they don't fall off, they don't slink off your shoulder. And this one has been designed to fit really nicely around your neck so that when you're on like a winter walk and the wind is howling, you can bury your face in it and keep nice and chilled. Nice and warm even, and it's high enough that it will actually protect your ears as well. So this is part 1, and what I'm probably going to do, well, what I am part way through, is designing some mittens that will go with it as well. And then I was wondering, I wanted to ask you guys actually whether you would be interested in a hat that goes with it too, or is that just too much? Is it better to have a cowl and mittens? Or would you like to see a barley hat too? Let me know and I'll see what I can do. Because I think, well, I'm fairly certain that with the 100 grams I had of the Blueface Leicester, the luxurious sock one, the grey main colour, and the 20 grams of the colours, there is more than enough there to do the cowl, a hat and mittens in various sizes. And I also wanted to say thank you. I put the call out for test crocheters and product review people in the last podcast, and I'm just so pleased with the amount of people that came forward and said that they would be really interested in helping out and test crocheting and being part of the product review panel. It's really very kind of you, thank you. I have pulled all of your emails together, and by the time you are hearing, reading, watching this podcast, you will have all had an email from me. If you haven't, please ping me an email. It means it's just been lost in the ether somewhere. So if you haven't heard from me and you emailed me to begin with, ping me a message. There is not one single person that has been in contact with me that I wouldn't want to get back in touch with. So that sounds wrong, but what I mean by that is that if you messaged me, then that's it. You're on the panel and you're a test crocheter, and you should have heard back from me. So if you haven't, please let me know and I will rectify that. There was never a case of, oh, I have so many people, I don't need anybody else. It's not like that at all. So you should have heard from me, and thank you very much. It's much appreciated. And this, I think, barley is going to be one of the first things that goes out for test crocheting. It is so soft and so warm. It's lovely. I might have to put it on again. So that's design in progress number 1. Design in progress number 2. This is really, really exciting. And this is why the episode is called The Secret's Out. Shall I tell you my secret? Would you like to know? It's quite epic. Let me slurp coffee first. I've been sitting on some information for about 2 months now. I'm not just sitting on it, I've also been working away, beavering away, which is why I've been less active on Instagram and Ravelry than I perhaps normally would have been. And when I've been doing things, they've just had to be done quite quickly because lots of time and effort has been going into other things. So, what I have been working on is a series of designs for somebody that I love and adore. And I just can't quite believe that this has happened. So when I started crocheting just over 3 years ago now, one of the first designers and yarn brands I had a real affinity with was Erica Knight. I still can't quite believe I'm saying this. I really love Erica's pared back, simple, stylish elegance in her patterns and the way that she writes her patterns as well. Like, not a wasted word, they're really nicely done. And it's what she leaves out of a pattern that makes her patterns gorgeous for me. She doesn't fling everything at them. They are very understated, but the techniques behind them make them come together, so they're very, very competent, but they're understated elegance, and I love that. And so she's just always been on my kind of radar of somebody that I love, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing Erica and having contact with her in the last kind of 18 months or so. And Erica and Bella, Bella works with Erica, it's actually her daughter, they asked me to put forward a design concept, which I did, and said, well, I've got some more designs if you're interested. And they were. So to cut a long story short, I've already got one design in with Erica, and I've just finished another 4, and I've got another load in the pipeline. So that's what I have been doing. I have been designing for somebody that I truly, truly admire, and like I keep on having to pinch myself because I can't believe that my designs are worthy. That sounds truly ridiculous, but you know, when you've got somebody who you really respect and then they like what you're doing and you think, oh, okay, my stuff must be okay then. It's, you know, it can't be utterly horrendous. If this person likes what it is that I'm designing, it can't be bad at all. And so that's what's happened to me. So I can't give an awful lot more away other than the pieces that I've just finished off. It's a series of 4 shawls, and it's a series because they all use the same central pattern repeat to create a very similar shape, but the idea is that with each shawl it builds up your skills and knowledge and understanding of crochet. So the first one is really simple to do but beautiful. It's actually I think my favourite out of the fall. And then you build up to a slightly different stitch and adding in another technique, and then the third one has got some lace rows in it which make it interesting again with a border, and then the fourth one uses tapestry crochet again. So you can build up your skills throughout these 4 shawls, and each of the 4 shawls has been made in Erica's new British Blue 100. So it's 100 gram skeins of Blueface Leicester again. I could have called this this episode the Blueface Leicester episode, and it's really lovely to work with. It's a double knit and it comes in at, I think it's 220 meters per 100 grams. And she has got 8 gorgeous shades to begin with. And I've got 4 that I can show you here. And I've just really enjoyed working with this wool. It's spun in the UK, it's a British product. And you know, with some double knitting, the twist can really split on a crochet hook. This stuff doesn't. It was just really easy to work with, and it's very easy to move up and down hook sizes, and so you can make it as dense as you want or really open it out if that's what you would like as well. It's a good one for playing around with. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. If you don't know Erica's work, go and have a look. She's been in this industry for a long time. She has over 10 pages worth of patterns on Ravelry, and she has her own brand that she sells in her own right, and also she does some stuff via John Lewis as well. So she does linen, she's got the glossy cotton. I don't know if you remember the Hove beach bag that I did, that was in Erica's cotton. So have a look at her yarns. She has a real eye on provenance and understanding where her yarns are coming from. That's important to me. And yeah, without putting too fine a point on it, I have a huge amount of respect for Erica and Bella and what they do. They're really hard-working ladies, and they're lovely, lovely to deal with and work with in collaboration. And I just can't believe it. I cannot believe it. And I know some of you who will know of Erica's brand will be like every bit as chuffed for me as I am, because you get it, you understand the magnitude of this. For me is just incredible. And for those that don't understand or haven't got an inkling of how massive this is, take a look at Erica's website and have a look at her Ravelry pages, because I'm blown away by the fact that they're interested in my designs. So watch this space. It will be next year before you see them, but there's going to be quite a lot that I will be talking about. I'll be shouting it from the rooftops when they're available, and you can have a look and go and buy the patterns from Erica. But I'm so hugely excited about this project. I can't quite believe it. So yes. And then yesterday, more designs in progress. This one's a bit of a different one, but you know, I have a few brands I really love because I love their ethos and I love the people behind them, and it's as much about the people as it is about the ethos. And I feel that way about Erica, about Becky and Marcus at River Knits, and also about John and Juliet Harbin. And yesterday, their new catalogue pinged through my mailbox, and I knew that this was happening, but I still wasn't quite prepared for it. So with my Doppio Colosseum shawl pattern, I redid it in John and Juliet's Devonia, which is a gorgeous, very local to them wool blend that they've pulled together from breeds local to them in North Devon. And so they put the Doppio Colosseum, can often be found on their stand when they go and do wool shows, and they were redoing the photography for their latest catalogue, and Juliet had given me the heads up and said, oh, there's every chance that Doppio Colosseum will be on the front of the catalogue, and it came through yesterday. I thought the catalogue was coming out at the beginning of next year, and it came through yesterday, and I was just like, I can't quite believe it, but that's my shawl. I'll put a photo into the show notes. That's my shawl on the front of their catalogue. Again, a couple that I have a huge amount of respect for. I love what they do. And there's just been this lovely little series of events that have happened in the last few months that have made me think, yes, I'm on the right path. Yes, I'm doing the right thing, and I just need to keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. So thank you to John and Juliet for putting me on their front cover. Well, not me, but you know, that's my shawl and that's my design, and yeah, thank you for that. Love it. Matthew came home last night and I just stood there holding it, like going, oh, hello, evening. He was like, ah, that's your Doppio Coliseum. I was like, yes, it is. So yeah, I'm a happy little bunny about all of this stuff. It's great. Yeah, that's it for designs in progress, I think. But what I can do is show you one of the next load of yarns that I'm going to be working with, because that will feed into feeding the habit as well. I went to a smaller wool festival, yarn festival, called Bakewell Wool Gathering. I'm actually going to apply because I went along partly to go and see what the setup is and see if it's a yarn show that I would want to try and vend at, and it very much is. It's lovely. And one of the stallholders that I came across there, I already knew of their stuff, but it is the Border Tart, and she does natural dyeing with indigo. Really nice, really beautiful, very soft tonal shifts in it, really lovely. And so what I got was one skein of their 4-ply, which is 60% superwash merino, 20% silk and 20% yak. And yak is really nice and soft, lovely. So to pair it up, what I got was an undyed skein as well. So exactly the same mix, but it's quite different. So rather than being the whitey cream that you get of like a merino or something, the yak gives it a very mid-brown grey tone, and I thought the pairing of these two, of the indigo with the undyed, was just gorgeous. I already have the design in mind, and I will be making this up just as soon as I have done a few other tutorials and filtered through a few other things. So you might see this as a design in progress next month, but it's going to be another cowl, but a longer one that you can double up, so really have nice and squishy around your neck. Yeah, so that one's there. So what tends to happen is that sometimes I will buy the yarn for a design, and then it will just start to kind of mutate in my mind until the design is there. So this one I've been thinking about since I got the yarn, and probably that was maybe three weeks ago. And then about 2 days ago, finally the design had filtered its way all the way through my mind, and then that was it. And what happens is I change it a little bit mentally, change it a little bit, and sometimes I won't write anything down, and then eventually the cogs have turned and they spit out the design idea, and then it's ready to go. With others, I will have the design idea and I will jot it down, take a quick sketch out of it, and then I will go hunting for the yarn to try and make that design come to life. But when I find yarn that I really, really love and I think is within my palette and I would want to work with, I tend to just buy it there and then for a design, especially if it's a yarn that isn't going to be gone 2 weeks later. It's one that has got longevity with that yarn brand, so by the time I come to designing it, if somebody wanted to use that exact same yarn, then they would be able to go and buy it. One of the other beauties of pairing it up with an undyed skein is that it keeps the cost down, because the dyed skein is more expensive than the undyed. So I still get a lovely effect, but it makes for a slightly cheaper project. So watch the space on that one. That's the only yarn that I had coming in this month. I was eyeing up some other bits and pieces at Bakewell, like the Dalton flock. I was looking at their stuff, but I didn't buy any because I've got enough to be going with, and I have some more ideas for Erica's British 100 as well. So that was it really from Bakewell. And the only other thing I've already shown you for Feeding the Habit that I've bought was the Making Winter book by Emma Mitchell. I suspect that lots of you are going to have this on your wish list for Christmas or for birthdays this year. It's a really beautiful book, and what she does is doesn't just focus in on crochet. There's some jewellery making, there's drawing, there are recipes, there's a gin recipe as well. There's all sorts in here, and it's a really beautiful hardback book. I think eventually I will probably do a review of this, but what I would want to do is review it once I've done some of the other crafts, so rather than just the crochet, because it is more than a crochet design book. So it might be a month or so before I review that properly. But very nice, clear instructions, beautifully laid out, beautiful photography, and quite a few crochet patterns as well. Like, let me just show you this one, the fennel cowl. I think I might make that one as well. Yeah, it looks like a quick, this might be one of my Christmas Eve cast on one skein wonders actually, because it's done in a chunky weight material and a 6mm hook, so I could probably bosh that off on Christmas Eve itself. Yeah, so I will come back to you on the Making Winter book, but first impressions are that it's very nice, it's lovely. So I also had a parcel arrive at the house, which I was not expecting, and it was from Emmy and Yael, and they have been doing some really funky bags. You've heard me talk about them both before. They do the blanket of Hope and Love, and Yael's got those beautiful crocheted beads that they do, and they've started up their own shop. It's really nice, and they sent me through a couple of bags and a scrubby and some makeup removers, and what they're doing is actually hand printing on vintage fabric, and I love it. It's got a really nice feel to it with really gorgeous like contrast zips, and quite a nice firm bag. You know, it's got like a lining inside it as well, and really cool label on the inside. So I did not expect this at all, and they didn't just send me one bag, they sent me two, and this one has got Gosh yarn it across it, and they're using vintage fabrics to make the bags up. Really decent sizes as well, and very nicely made. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful. Thank you, ladies. I did not expect this little parcel to be coming through the post, and they immediately got filled up with projects. And yeah, love the fabric on this one. It's a very bright green flower, almost got like a camouflage jungle feel to it. Really, really love it. So one of the things that they focus in on is reusables. So that might be breast pads, sanitary wear, all sorts of stuff. So have a look at it. It's lovely stuff that they do, and very nicely made. They've just started a new shop, which is www.emyahandmade, so EMYA handmade.com. And because they are lovely, lovely ladies, they have offered podcast listeners 20% off in their shop. All you need to do is add in the discount code, which is EMYA20, so EMYA capital and then 2020. 20% off. I think that's really very kind of them, and I did not expect these to be coming through the post, and they're just lovely. I can definitely vouch for the quality and the thickness and the sturdiness of the bags and the size of them. The big one that I've got is currently housing my jumper, the homebody jumper in it, and I don't think I'll have to move it out of this bag. I think it's a proper sweater quantity bag that they've got, and they've got all sorts of really cool wording on their designs. Let me see if I can bring some up. Yeah, so they've got one that says knit happens. There's a notions pouch, size matters, yarn cheaper than therapy. If I sit, I knit. There's all sorts. It's just really a lovely idea, and I love the use of the fabrics that they've got, and even more that it's vintage fabric that they're using. So thank you, ladies. And if you are in the running for a project bag, have a look at what they're doing. emyahandmade.com, and you can get your 20% off with them, and it comes over from Sweden. Thank you. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was setting up a craft group. And what I've done is put a load of detail into a blog post, which I'll link to in the show notes. So if it's something that you're interested in and you need lots more detail, then please go and have a look at the blog post, because I've gone through all sorts in there about setting up a group and how I've done it and how Wool Gathering Sandbach works, and that's the group that I run. So I'll just give you a quick lowdown on how that came about and how I run it, because you might find that useful if you are looking at setting up a craft group. I was doing crochet lessons with Lynn, and that was part of an adult education services thing, so there were a few of us, and I had done the beginners crochet lessons and then the intermediate crochet lessons as well, and they came to an end. They were 6-week blocks, so I'd done 12 weeks, and at the end of it I still wanted to do more. I didn't want to just come back home and do it all on my own, and so I'd put it to the group of ladies that I would happily set up a group if they would find it useful, and some of them would want to come along, and some of them did, which was great. So out of that I already had like a seed group of people that were interested in crafting, and initially what I was going to do was house it in one of our local cafes, which would have been free of charge, but what that meant was the place that they could house us was in the area at the back, which was right beside the kitchens, which would have meant that all of our projects and us would have smelt of cooking fat, which I just didn't think was good enough. And although that would have been free of charge, people still would have had to come and support that cafe, so they would have been spending money on food or, you know, cafe lattes, whatever it was. So then I took the decision to actually move it to a paid for hired room, and quite honestly it was one of the best decisions I could have made, because what it meant was that I could be very specific about the lighting that we had, about car parking, about everything, and for a good 18 months we used the same one location. Eventually we moved for various reasons that I've listed out in the blog post, but what that meant was we were spending £30 every time we met on room hire, and therefore the crafting group was a charged for group, and it costs £3 every time, which is the equivalent of a cafe latte or two anyway that you would have in a cafe if we were using their space. But what we get is a lovely dedicated room that we can use, access to a kitchen, all those good things that you need for a crafting group. And then there's been quite a lot of people that have come via word of mouth. Lynn, when she's running crochet and knitting classes, tells those people that there is a crafting group available, and so we get people from there. People now come via the podcast, so hello, if you're listening and you're local, I'm in Cheshire, I'm just outside Sandbach, so we've had a few people join us because they have heard about me talking, they've heard me talking about Wool Gathering Sandbach on the podcast, and they've come and joined us, which is lovely. It's really nice. We generally have about 8 to 15 people. We meet once a fortnight, and that's a really important timeline. I think if it was once a week it would almost be too much, but because it's once a fortnight you're really looking forward to it next time it comes around, and we have a great crack. We have lots of fun with the people that we've got coming. 8 to 15 people depending on the season, so that does change, and it's kind of self-publicising now. I don't actively go out and seek more people to come to the group, but if somebody emailed me or came along, absolutely not an issue. There's never a cut-off point. It's just lovely to welcome new people into the group, but we're at a point where we don't necessarily need to go out and advertise and say please come along to our group. And it's also a very chilled out group, and we meet in the evenings. And if you're setting up a craft group, that's, I think, probably one of the most important factors, is when is it that you need to set up your group? Where is the hole? So we have got lots of crafting groups that meet during the day locally. That wasn't suitable for me at the time because I was full-time employed and often would work late hours, and I needed something that I could set up and go to at night time. And therefore lots of people that come along to the group are in exactly the same position. They work full-time, but they still want to have some time out on their own and do their own thing. And so what I did was set it up for exactly that, and it's between the hours of 6 and 9. So it's a 3-hour session, but because we're a very informal group, you can turn up whenever you like within that timeline. You pay your money and that's it. So I don't care if somebody turned up at 8:30 and only managed half an hour. I don't care if somebody's there from 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock. We don't run it as a rigid group, which I think is another key factor for us. So you don't have loads of time spent going through minutes and guild information and national information, because we're not part of anything like that. It's just us. You brew up when you want to brew up, and you turn up when you want to turn up, and you leave when you want to leave, and that's it. So it's a very informal, relaxed group, because that's the way that I want to run it. I didn't want a treasurer and a chairperson and it's just done on a very chilled out basis, and people seem to really appreciate that. So when I was looking for new people to join the group, one of the things that I did was found some of our local web pages, and I put us up in the group section of that, and we had quite a few people that filtered in through that. So that's a really helpful way of introducing people to the group. I also let the daytime groups that were meeting, crafting groups, I let them know about our group in case they had other people that had been in contact with them and said, oh, I can only do evenings, and they could be filtered towards us. And if we had a local yarn shop, we don't, but if we did, I would have put the information over to them as well, because that's a natural feeding site for a crafting group. And the other thing that I was very conscious about was not calling it a knit night, because I'm sure you are all aware, as crocheters, I find it really frustrating that knitting is always taken as the dominant craft. So it'll be a knit and natter, a knit night. It's all pretty much around knitting. Now I knit as well, but I also embroider. I occasionally attempt weaving and spinning and lots of other things. And so I was very aware that I wanted the group to be called something that wasn't going to alienate lots of other crafters. And so that's why it's called Wool Gathering Sandbatch. And wool gathering as one word, which actually means daydreaming. It's sitting, thinking, taking time out and daydreaming. And so what that does is gets the point across that it's about fibre crafts, but it doesn't define it as a crochet club or a knitting club or an embroidery club or a tapestry club. You can come and do all of those things. Roz often comes along and brings her inkle loom and weaves straps. We've got somebody that does ragrogging. A few people recently have been doing embroidery as well. So it's a very mixed club, which makes our club all the richer for it. If you're thinking about setting up a craft group, I would thoroughly recommend not alienating other people by calling it a knit and natter or a knit group or a knit night. Feel free, still wool gathering if you want to. I know that there are various other wool gatherings across the country, because people have heard about ours and have not had a name for theirs, and so they're such and such wool gathering or wool gathering somewhere in Devon or whatever it is. So if you're thinking about setting up a club, feel free to use wool gathering as part of your name for it. It's just a nice way of getting across that it's a wool-based crafting club without alienating people. That's probably about all I need to say on it right now. If you do need more information, go to the blog post. And if you've got any specific questions, please let me know and I'll answer them for you. I should have mentioned one of the other things that I did is a few of the yarn retailers and also the Knitting and Crochet Guild, they have got online resources for all of the kind of crafting clubs, predominantly knitting and crochet clubs across the UK. So I'm listed on that, and actually we've had a few people that have got my email address from that resource. So if you're thinking about setting up a club, that's a good way of getting more people through the door as well, as get yourself onto the national databases. And every now and then they'll ping me an email with something that's going on nationally that our club might want to get involved in. So yeah, like I say, email me if you have got any questions, or ping me a message on Ravelry, or Instagram, and I'll happily talk you through more bits and pieces on setting up a craft club. It is honestly one of the best things that I've ever done. I moved into this area. I know, can you tell I'm not local? And I'd been here for probably 4 years and still hadn't made any friends because Matthew and I don't have kids, so there was no meeting of parents at the school gate. I worked an hour away and was commuting every day. And whilst we've got kind of friends and neighbours around me, I didn't have people that I would actively go and have a cup of tea with or sit and craft with, or people that I would truly say are local friends. And through running Wool Gathering Sandbatch and meeting all of the people there, I've got friends. I've got people that I drop in on. I've got people that inspire me. I've got people that I can help out and they will help me out because of Wool Gathering Sandbatch. So it's a really positive thing to do, and it doesn't have to take up loads of your time. It's a few emails for me and a little bit of work to pull specific things together, but it's not a huge amount of time for what I get back out of running that club. I really enjoy it, and it's definitely brought me closer to my local community and definitely to my crafting community, so well worth doing. Right, big up. So I'm going a bit left field with this month's big up. The first one is actually it's not even an audio book, it's a series of lectures that I have just finished listening to yesterday, and they were fantastic. When I'm crafting and doing bits and pieces, I really like to have audiobooks on in the background, and I am currently obsessed with Vikings and anything Viking-esque and Norse mythology, just you name it, within that kind of category, and I want to know everything about it. And so I looked up on Audible because I had a few credits, and I found that they're called the Great Courses, and I'm sure some of you will have come across these before. And what they do is they hone in on specific categories. They get people that lead the field in those categories, and then they deliver a series of courses and lectures within that category. So the one that I've just listened to is by Professor Harl. He comes from a university in New Orleans, and he has delivered the most amazing set of lectures on the Vikings. It's 18 hours worth, and I've loved every minute of it. That I could press play again now and listen to it all again. It's delivered in such a nice way. It's intellectual, but it's delivered in a very homely way. It's not incredibly highbrow. It's very palatable, and I've just had so much fun learning about the Viking era and learning more about British history and English history and Scottish history and Irish history, and how the Scandinavians have had such a massive impact on the UK as a whole. Brilliant series, and they have got so many to learn from. So there's stuff in there on there's a whole series of lectures on the Civil War. There's a series of lectures on the Tudors. I mean, you name it, there is something of interest to everybody within there. Some of these lectures total up to about 27 hours worth of learning, and that you get all of that for one Audible credit, which I think is great value. If you were going to buy them as a set of CDs, the retail value is about £60. So one Audible credit, which is about $6.99, something like that, means it's really good value for money. But I do get to a point in my working day, because I don't have a team around me, where I have a thirst for knowledge, and I'm very inquisitive, and I just want to be taking on information. But I could be sitting working out a shawl design, or having to sit and crochet through a design, and it's not that it's wasted time, but I feel like my brain needs to be chugging through something as well, and it has just been perfect. And I think all of my audible credits from now on in are going to be used on the Great Courses. I've added a link to the one that I listened to on Audible. If you're interested, cannot recommend it enough. It takes you right the way through the Viking era. He splits it into different types of categories, so it's not just hodgepodge. He will talk about shipbuilding, Scandinavia, Iceland, all sorts of stuff. Absolutely incredible. Loved it. So that's number one. And then number two is a podcast that Matthew and I listen to religiously. Every Friday night, you can pretty much guarantee that I will have a glass of wine in one hand, a crochet hook in the other, and we will be sat on the sofa in the kitchen listening to the Empire Film podcast. It's brilliant fun. It's a little bit sweary, so if you're of a delicate disposition, it might not be for you. Actually, it's really quite sweary. I don't have an issue with that personally, but I love the film reviews that they do. They're really good fun. They get some great guests in there, and Matthew and I are massive film fans, Matthew even more so than me. So the Empire podcast is a great way of learning about films, and again, not sitting and watching the TV, but taking information in a different format. And that's what I really love podcasts and audiobooks for. I'm not necessarily sat looking at a square box. So that's it for Big Up. That's where I'm at. I've got a couple of new podcasts I want to look at and probably bring to you for next time round, but I just haven't had enough time to look at them in depth yet and bring them forward as a Big Up. And that just leaves me with what's good. And this is short but sweet. I feel like I've really set the scene for myself in 2017, and that 2018 is going to be a great year. I feel like I've done loads of groundwork, and with the stuff with Erica coming in this year but really coming to fruition next year, I really feel like I'm on the right path with my designs and the way that I do things, like the way that I set my patterns out, doing the video tutorials. I feel like I've spent 2017 putting in all the groundwork, and like I'm well and truly ready for 2018 to be a fantastic year. And it feels really good that I'm there. I feel like I could apply that to the podcast as well. Like, you guys are all so lovely. I love the interaction that we have. I love the community that we've got. I love that you get what I'm doing, that you enjoy the fact that it's quite in-depth content, that I'm trying to share the skills so that what I learn I'm passing on, and that I am still learning. I've only been crocheting for 3 years, just over 3 years, and I'm a newbie. I'm a total baby at this. It's just that I like to spraff about it. That's the difference. I just like to talk a lot, and therefore you guys get to hear me and see me do that. But I am ever grateful for everybody that tunes in and leaves a thumbs up and a nice comment. I'm trying to get better at responding on YouTube as well. And I've definitely been more active in Ravelry, so I've put up a load of new threads today. So I'm kind of, now that the Erica stuff is done, I'm trying to get back into Ravelry and address the balance there. But yes, I feel like design is good and podcast is good. And yeah, I'm ever grateful for you guys for tuning in and making it all worthwhile. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Right, enough now. It's time to go. We're getting quite gloomy out there. Yeah, we're done. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And I will see you in December when I'll have a bit more detail on the One Skein Wonderland Cal with Charlie. And a whole load of new FOs and whips and designs in progress for you. Until then, thank you very much. Bye. She is waving. Episode 22. You've got a stick coming out of your head. I need to go more that way. Stickhead. Hello, my name's Faye Stickhead. Is that better? We can see Claude, and I don't have a stick coming out my head. I've got yellow hands. It's the turmeric. I look like I have jaundice. I don't have jaundice. It's turmeric. It's very classy. Right. Quite tired now. Podcasting is tiring. Can you see how disgusting my glasses are? It's like I smeared porridge on them. I'm amazed I've even been able to see out of them. Actually, that's a fair point. This is what it would look like as a hat, kind of. Well, less tea cozy. Special Faye. Is it a good look? My crochet crown. It's like a crochet fez. That is kind of more what it would look like as a hat, because I wouldn't wear it like a fez on my head. It also shows you how little I suit a hat. It's ridiculous. But that would work, and then do the decreases. Do you think? Let me know. Do you want a hat in this design? Say yes, and I shall make it happen. Say no, and I will make you wear it like this. With the bit sticking out. Right, go inside. Sort everything out. Warm up. Oh, you're toasty. You are a toasty, toasty wee cow. I can't be bothered to move. Done, done, done. Done. Love this. Yeah, 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 yeah,